Welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful break. Okay, let's talk about the throat chakra. Okay, this is someone like this guy right here is someone who has struggled with having an open throat chakra most of his life, most of his life. And that's because I grew up in a house with an authoritarian kind of fella for my father. And it just, um, I had a big voice and it was just squashed, since I was a kid. And then, I'll say this. Sometimes when I teach, often when I teach, I get, how should I say this, congested with some of the karma within the Sangha. That's been a fun experience for me, but it happened with my teacher as well. And I've seen it happen with countless other teachers where just some of the stuff in the Sangha kind of gets processed through the teacher's throat chakra. Don't think too much about me. It's just a weird experience. And, you can go and, if you're a mother, like sometimes this happens, if the children are really struggling in your household and they have tears, you might start to feel a welling up of tears or sadness or angst in your own throat chakra area, in your upper chest. So it's not like just something special for spiritual teachers to have an affliction with. We humans pick this up because we have an empathetic nature, and not everything gets burnt up right away in our own brilliance. And so let's talk about the throat chakra a little bit here. Like, what is the throat chakra on an absolute level? On an absolute level, the throat chakra is a boundless radiating Om. A boundless radiating Om. And there's been times when I've went and meditated, whether it's with a great guru in India, or when Amma comes to town, or I've even been at yoga festivals before and been in a room with 400 yogis. And when the beautiful teacher on the stage says, bring your palms to your heart, and together we're going to, chant Om 3 times, you feel this eternal radiance that flows out throughout all creation. I think this is the first words of the Bible. In the beginning, there was a word, and the word was Om. It was Om. It was Om. Now the Christians kind of took it and mixed it up a little bit and made the word the literal words of the Bible. And of course, that's not the truth. It's not the truth. But it's Om. And as your throat chakra opens up and as the third eye opens up, you'll start to hear a radiant Om all the time. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking for some people, and they say, I have tinnitus, I have this thing, I have that thing. When people's kundalini wakes up, like often they have this just radiating hum of light and brilliance. And so that happened with me many years ago, and it just never stopped. I just got used to it. I got used to it. And so it's kind of sweet. It's like this feeling of just like radiance of life. Just singing the glory and the praise of creation. And so the throat chakra is a very interesting chakra. It tends to be the one that gives most of us the most trouble, the most trouble. And again, we'll get into why here. But on an absolute level, the throat chakra is such an interesting chakra because it's more like an open auditorium. And it's like, okay, well, it's an open auditorium. Well, what's on the stage? The heart is on the stage, and the heart is singing radiance. And so when the throat is open, you really hear the heart, really hear the heart. And in our Western culture, we are proficient at veiling, closing the throat chakra and listening only to our thinking mind. It's the biggest disease in Western culture, is that we are overly mentally oriented beings. We've forgotten about our heart, and that's why we are so thirsty for a true spirituality. That's why we're so thirsty for a true spirituality. So the throat chakra gets clogged with everything that you want to say and express. And here's, again, like where it gets troublesome. So we tend to have minds, we've been conditioned to give all of our attention to our thinking mind, and we value doctors, lawyers, people who are outwardly successful because they have invented the next new thneed. And you know the story of the Lorax. Someone invented a thneed, and that's the thing you need that you don't really need, that we're busy destroying the planet, because we all think we need the next thneed. And so we value the wrong things in this Western culture, in this modern age. And it has so much to do with materialism and material science and material wealth. And again, that's a great disease. That's a disease of samsara. Of samsara. And so if everyone can just close their eyes, and we just ask, are you able to express yourself clearly? Clearly. And you might get a yes from your thinking mind, but if you feel down into your heart, do you feel that your heart, the truth of your heart, the depth of your being, is able to express itself clearly and fully in this world? And I bet we get a lot more no's than we do yeses. Excuse me. If you feel stuck on the spiritual path, it's almost always because there is something in you that you're unwilling to see, unwilling to feel, unwilling to experience. And that's the throat chakra thing. People think that the throat chakra is just all about expression, and it is, but the throat chakra, it's a channel, and a channel can work both ways. Both ways. Both ways. Are things allowed to come up and out? And sometimes in order for something to come up and out, you have to go down into it and feel it first. You have to go down and claim it first, own it first, like I was speaking about in the first session. It's very hard to let go if you don't own the thing first. Own the thing. And so the throat chakra is an invitation for you to be truly honest. Now, on the shadow side of the throat chakra, if we have a little bit of fun with the shadow, the shadow side of the throat chakra, we have dishonesty. This is where we distort the facts. In our modern age, our mainstream media, big corporations, lobbyists, and all these people are proficient at distorting the facts, proficient distorting the science. It's gotten to be such a degree that people don't trust science anymore. Science is just a political thing because it's so distorted. It's been so prostituted. It's like, it's insane. Again, I don't want to get too much into it, but it's just, It's one of the great diseases is corruption. Corruption. And how are we corrupted? Well, we tend to be corrupted through money and status and desire. And some of us, we choose to be corrupted by our tribe so that we can feel safe within the tribe. Like we do this in our families, we do this throughout life. And so when you choose to allow yourself to be corrupted and you swallow the truth, well, that creates great suffering. Great suffering. I met with someone the other day and she had like these big nodules in her throat chakra because she had to swallow the truth. And it was interesting. She found great truths that she swallowed in a previous incarnation. So she saw this, like all these truths. And if any of you have seen Braveheart, there's that moment, at the end of the movie where I guess Mel Gibson, I guess he's Braveheart, right? He's being tortured to death and his throat opens up and screams. What does he scream? I think freedom, right? Freedom, freedom, freedom. And so there's, in the past, we were tortured for telling the truth and speaking the truth. Like Joan of Arc was burnt alive on a stake. Joan of Arc is incredible, incredible human being, divine being, holy being. Young girl burnt on a stake. Horrific, horrific. And many of us, we have past lives where we were silenced. Like this, at this moment in history, it's like we all have the internet and we're allowed to say whatever we want. We can vomit all over it. And, there will be some repercussions, but we're not going to be tortured to death. Now, if you're in a totalitarian dictatorship, well, if you're in China or something, it's like in places in the Middle East or Afghanistan, you're not going to be allowed to speak your truth. There will be consequences for it. But here in the Western world, most of us have this gift of we're able to speak freely, which is a good thing, a beautiful thing. I am a fan of freedom and free speech. I think that things get worked out through everyone having an opportunity to speak through intelligent discourse. The problem that most people have now is we've lost the ability to listen. And again, that's a throat chakra quality. Like the throat, it's an interesting chakra because it really goes from the ears down to the upper heart. And so when the throat chakra is open and when it's connected to a depth in the hara, we can patiently listen and we can discern and we can communicate and we can debate from a place of peace and from a place of openness. We can debate our own self and ask, is what I'm thinking true? Like these things that I am thinking, are they true? Are they true? Are they true? And still, like in this day and age, even in this platform, there's things that I cannot speak about. Every now and then, YouTube sends me a censorship notice, a notice. And John Stewart said something great once that I loved about the origins of a particular illness. And he said there was an outbreak of chocolate in Hershey, Pennsylvania, but it did not come from the Hershey chocolate factory. That was his joke. That was his joke. It upset so many people. And it's like, it's a silly time we live in. Silly time. I've been to that chocolate factory, by the way. Had some roller coasters there and things. I went as a little kid. It was kind of fun. But there's things we're not allowed to talk about, or we're not going to be hanged. We'll be canceled. We'll be canceled. And like when I first started teaching, it really wasn't such a thing. Like you talk about anything, but there was people in the crowd who I called the non-dual police. Now I have the woke police watching me. But when I first started teaching, it was a non-dual police. I didn't say everything as eloquently and as clearly as Rupert Spira did. And so they wanted to attack me, tell me I was wrong. And really, what they were is they were sad, old individuals who wanted to be spiritual teachers themselves, and they didn't have enough courage. They didn't have enough courage to go out and share their truth with the world. So they decided to stand on the sidelines and attack others. And there's a lot of that in this world. A lot of that. People who are scared and they'll just attack you in the YouTube comments. If you share yourself online. I coached a young fella in the Sangha to create his own YouTube channel, and it wasn't a spiritual channel. It's about business of some sort. And he started to go online. I was like, hey, you got great ideas, you got a great voice, share your truth with the world. He had this gift of numbers, of how to speak about numbers and share numbers and statistics, all this kind of thing. A gift I certainly do not have. And he had a gift of mathematics. And I said, well, go and share this with the world. And as soon as he began to share, people would comment, your head is too big. Your head does not proportionally fit with your body. And, he came to me and he felt sad. He's like, all these people are attacking me. And he's a handsome fella. I was like, yeah, you're a handsome fella. But like, this is the fear with the throat chakra. The throat chakra has this fear is if I speak, I will be attacked. And there's a truth to it. There's a truth to it. But just a fun story here, like with this fella, he decided to courageously go forward. And if your throat chakra is going to stay open, you must harness your courage, the courage for you to be you. And I love it. So I coached him on how to make a YouTube channel. And he got to 1 million subscribers very swiftly. And then he created an app to go along with his YouTube channel. And I talk to him every now and then. It's funny, I give him some business ideas, and but he's pulling in something like $40,000 a month, a month, just from his app. And he was making a great deal of money from YouTube just on his ad sales. But anyways, the point being is if your throat is going to be open, well, you got to get to know your heart. And if your throat is going to consistently stay open, you have to connect with your strength and power of the solar plexus and the hara. The throat chakra is a messy chakra because when it first opens, normally the things that come forward are the things that have been repressed. And so don't be surprised if and when your throat opens, there's lots of tears, or lots of fire, lots of rage, lots of opinions, like just opinions. And you see some people who are far too open. Let's just say the throat and the head is open and they're full of philosophical ideas. They can get lost in that. If they're too open and ungrounded, this is where we can get preyed upon and bullied by others, or we can be the social justice warrior, just like screaming, fighting everyone. The man, that's what it was in the 70s. We're fighting against the man. The 70s, 80s, 90s, we fought against the man. When I was young, I fought, in a way of, like I was literally, I shouldn't say this too loud, but literally an eco-terrorist. I do things to create destruction in the world, and for people who are cutting down trees, and because I'm a tree hugger, and so it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. Like we can get real carried away when the throat first opens, and there's this emotional fire and injustice in the world. We might want to scream and shout, and a lot of people prematurely screw up this through practicing mindfulness um, too quickly, too quickly. And, mindfulness needs to come a little bit later, a little bit later. Otherwise, we'll be one of those spiritual people who's so constipated. They don't allow themselves to speak or share anything ever, ever. And this is like, the political correct movement of just like everything must be exactly perfect, politically correct. And you sound like some, Berkeley robot, is just like stuck in some political correctness, and then on the flip side, you can be the screaming Marxist or the screaming vegan, like I was. Like I was the screaming vegan. And I've had people who've told me they cannot listen to Adyashanti because he said in an interview once that he ate a hot dog and he really liked it. It's just like people get crazy when their throat chakra gets inflamed and stuck and fixated on ideologies. When the throat chakra is truly open, again, like fully open, there's this radiating om. And it's funny, my teacher, David, he had a teacher named Hilda, and Hilda went and visited Yogananda once. Yogananda invited her to come and study with Yogananda, and Yogananda really was wanting Hilda to take over as he got older. But the thing that Hilda shared was when she was meeting with Yogananda, he was speaking about washing machines and carrots and all kinds of, just like normal worldly things. But she felt this divine radiance, this transmission in his speech. In his speech. And people, when they used to go see Hilda in New York City, she used to speak at St. John the Divine in New York City, and she would speak, and people who sat up close, they thought that she was speaking in a way where she was like spitting with her words, just like a real, I don't know how you say that. I'll just say it like that, just like spitting. My teacher, David, even thought this. He thought, oh, she's like spits all the time when she talks. Like, what the hell what's up with this old lady, But when he looked closely, he saw it was sparks of light, just little sparks of light, just kind of coming out of her throat chakra. And with my teacher, like sometimes he'd really yell at me, give me hell because I messed something up, because I did something stupid, and he'd yell at me. And there'd be part of my emotional nature that felt like shame, like, oh, damn it, I screwed up and he found out. And I was, a lot of times I'd screw up and I'd try to fix the thing real quick and he'd like catch me trying to fix it, and, but he would really give me a hard time. But if I would just sit and open-heartedly take it, I felt this transmission of absolute bliss and light and radiance. There are times even like he would holler at me. And I wouldn't be able to sleep that night because I would be so full of radiance. And it was a funny thing, a very confusing thing, because my ego wanted to fight and argue and justify. Oh, wait, no, David, you don't understand. And that's how an egoic version of the throat chakra is always like guarding and defending. And it's like, oh, but you just hold on, just let me explain, like, this type of thing. And if you notice your throat chakra is a master manipulator and liar. It's the thing that can take a little bit of truth, blend it with some falsehood, and work it out for you in order to protect you from being destroyed by your tribe or by a neighboring tribe. And it's interesting if you've ever seen, I'm going to just talk about something horrific right now, but if you've ever seen someone get captured, let's say uh, in Afghanistan, a soldier, a reporter, and the Taliban's favorite way is like, we're going to behead, this poor fool who got caught, but they have him read a speech first, and you see like that person, their throat chakra is just frozen and trembling. And the throat chakra just makes a deal with the devil that says, I'm going to lie and read something I don't believe, and in order to preserve another 5 minutes of my own life. And they read the thing, the United States is a whatever, and it's a terrible place, and I denounce my country, and whatever they say, when they're reading the thing. Maybe there's some truth in it. The United States is a warmongering country and should not be here in Afghanistan. I'll agree with that. But they're forced to read some kind of political statement, and then they get 5 minutes of life. And then the real irony here is then their throat chakra is severed. And of course, that's a horrific thing to see, but we live in a world that's pretty insane, pretty insane. And our throat chakra is always doing this math when it looks out at the insanity of the world. And it just tries to mitigate suffering through swallowing the truth. That's how it works on an egoic level. And it's the greatest form of prostitution. I'm going to swallow my truth. Like any news anchor on any, corporate media, it's like, we're just going to swallow the truth. We're just going to read what they tell me to read. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to call myself a journalist. I'm going to walk around as a living lie, supporting, propagating, endless war and big pharma and, whatever the corporate sponsors are. I'm not going to question them. I'm not going to investigate. No, I'm just going to read what they tell me to read. And many of us, like as children, like in my house, I wasn't allowed to be myself. I was told to be a soldier, that I was going to be a soldier. And my truth was, I'm going to be a priest. I'm going to be a priest. That didn't fully work out because, the Catholic Church has got some issues with it, and it's just a little bit too limiting for me. God wanted to use me in a different context, but priest-like I ended up. And so the throat chakra, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. And for many of us, like with addiction issues, our throat might be a little bit open, and we might realize when I open into my heart or I open into my belly, there's anger, there's fear, there's rage. And so how am I going to mitigate that? I am going to have a drink. Maybe I'll have lots of drinks. Maybe I'll have a smoke. Maybe I'll eat lots of food and stuff it in, or maybe I'll make that food come out as a way of detoxifying myself in a confused way, a neurotic way. And so, the throat chakra is a massive issue for most everyone on the spiritual path. And sometimes the issue is, the issue can just present in so many different ways. And sometimes the neurosis can be, I'm all in my head, I'm not in my heart, my throat is closed, but I speak a lot about the contents of my head, my philosophy. I tell everyone why and how they are wrong. That's my job on planet Earth, is to criticize, And of course, we know that that's not your true nature, but that's someone with an open throat chakra. To some degree, it's like open halfway up, but it's closed because it's not connected to their heart. So it's not open along their spine. It's open just, in the avenue of the head and in their ideology. We have a lot of that in this modern age. A lot of that. Okay. For most of us, if we examine our throat chakra clearly, if we look deeply and honestly, we will see that we have a tremendous amount of swallowed anger and swallowed fear. And again, the throat, like the egoic throat chakra, does this math equation. What's going to be easier? Is it going to be easier for me to hang out in my head, in my false sense of self, in my mask, and just live my life from this egoic place, the place of the mask? Or how will it feel for me to open and be vulnerable and experience the hugeness and the pain and suffering that is within this heart and within this body that has been repressed? And the egoic throat says, oh yeah, that's going to be way too much. I'm going to hang out my head. I'm going to be in my guarded sense of self. And again, like one of my favorite guarded senses of self, that people bring forward to me is the spiritual superego. The spiritual superego. And what's the spiritual superego? It's the one who says, I am mindful. I am the mindful one. And I know how to live. I know how to be. I'm mindful. I don't have any politics. No, 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 not me. I am a mindful person. I don't have any hatred. No, no, not me. I am just mindful presence. I am equanimity. I am peace. And I have all the dogma. I have the non-dual dogma. I know it's all a dream and all an illusion. I have no emotions. I have no feelings. I am a Zen robot who's hiding from the immense fear that is in this body. And so, it's a hilarious thing when you come into contact with someone on a retreat. They show up and they bring their big, polished spiritual sense of self and they present it to you. You say, boy, that was a really nice fella. He seems like he knows everything, though. Seems to have his whole life sorted out. They have everything worked out. And if you give him a little bit of pressure, you poke him a little bit, guess what happens? He explodes. He explodes. He explodes. He explodes. And it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. I used to go to this non-dual conference and it was just full of it, full of it. And all these Northern Californian people and Europeans would fly in. They'd be very sophisticated, very eloquent, and it's just a gift God did not grace me with, was eloquence and polishedness. I just never been able to pull that off, that off. And so the spiritual superego, the superego is a liar, and it lies because it's scared. That's why, because it's scared. So when a throat chakra is truly open, I'll say this differently. The way to truly open the throat chakra is through a willingness to feel everything you don't want to feel, that you don't want to experience. And normally the first thing one experiences when they open the throat is all our repressed anger, rage, fear, sadness, heartache, despair, all the crazy, terrible things that we did, that we have done, or that have been done to us. When the throat chakra truly opens, one is left with a true humility. A true humility. For the throat chakra to be open, it needs two great qualities. One is courage. The second is humility. The courage to withstand and open all the energies of the heart, the hara especially, and the root, because there's a lot of energy there. Tremendous amount of energy there. So the spiritual energy, the heart, the hara, the root, solar plexus. But one must also be able to honestly, compassionately embrace all of one's emotionality that has been repressed throughout the body. And again, a primary reason why people don't want to open the throat. Primary reason people hang out in their heads and speak from their head, live from their head, live from their mask is because they are terrified to incarnate. Terrified to incarnate. Me, I didn't want to incarnate. I wanted to stay in heaven. I spent, I think, at least 25 years of my life screaming at God, saying, this is not fair. This is not fair. This is not fair. I think it took me 35 years to incarnate. 35 years to incarnate. Most of us think we incarnate when we're born here on planet Earth, but no, it can take us a long time. So common symptoms, just like a raspy voice, a sore throat, nodules. Like as a kid, I had mucus that's just like stuck in my throat, hacking like for my entire childhood. It was just like hacking, coughing, because there was a spiritual fire in me that wasn't allowed. That wasn't acknowledged. And also that I was censoring too, because I didn't know, like, am I allowed to be this spiritual being in the world? Like, what will happen? Like, what will happen? What will happen? I had this funny moment where I was a little boy and we were playing with BB guns. And, I was the good vegan that I was as a little boy. And my friends were not good vegans. We'd walk around in the woods and we've come to a pond in the woods. And my friends would start shooting frogs, BB guns, just like killing them, creating a genocide of frogs. Like I wasn't going to stand for that, So my sweet nature erupted in fire. I started shooting my friends. Started shooting my friends, and then then we're just shooting each other, and it's all fun and games until someone loses an eye. So anyways, it's one of the times as a little kid I let my sensitive nature come forward mixed with some fire and some fight and a gun. And a gun. So I'm sorry, I'm being a little silly today. So in the throat chakra area lives our critic and our judge, and I've spoken immensely about that. I'm not going to get into it too much, but when we allow the critic and judge to lead us, well, you'll suffer. You'll suffer. And the critic and judge needs to be healed through love and through a willingness to speak the truth, to speak the truth. But you're not going to be able to speak the truth unless you can lovingly embrace the critic first and help them to relax, help that one to relax, help them to soften, help them to trust. And until you plug yourself into this basic truth that I am okay and all is okay. all is okay. That all is okay. All is okay. And if anyone here, again, like who's ever struggled, like I've struggled with autoimmune disorders, like sometimes we get a war going on where we're fighting ourselves. Well, that's a throat chakra issue. That's a throat chakra issue where you're fighting yourself. And many, many years ago, a great injustice came into my life, into my experience. It was something that I had to witness and not respond to because it actually wasn't my karma to fix. And, it was someone else's in my family, and not to get, I can't get into details because of the confidentiality of protecting them. But I had to witness something. I had to swallow something horrific, horrific. And when I swallowed it, it made me sick. It made me sick. And it took me a long time to heal this, to unpack it. And sometimes in this world, you'll see things, you'll witness something, and you'll be in a place where you can't do anything about it in that moment. And you have to swallow the truth in order to protect yourself or protect someone else. And, that dance of swallowing and not letting things empty out and flow, of course, is toxic. It's toxic. That is, how should I say this? Could be mimicked or mirrored in autoimmune disorders and allergy. Like even just allergies is like the body fighting with itself. The body fighting with itself, just overreacting. And sometimes like our consciousness is awake and our mind is awake, our heart is awake, but our body is stuck, because we have these primal mammal bodies, is stuck in some kind of congestion. And, if we just look out at our world and all the crazy chemicals that human beings have invented, like when I was a kid, I played in the woods with BB guns. I also played in cornfields. And like where I was at was like all the testing ground uh, for for Dow Chemical and Monsanto and all their crazy seeds and chemicals and pesticides and all that herbicides and stuff. They're just spraying crazy stuff everywhere where I lived. And as kids, like we just go running in those fields. And I mean, we didn't know any better. We didn't know that corn was toxic. And then you eat the corn and you breathe it, you drink it in. It's like, and so our bodies get inflamed with chemicals, that aren't organic. Our body doesn't know what to do with it. And so we live in a world, that's fairly, I'll just say, it's toxic to some degree. It's not, we're so far away from natural life. And so sometimes like we have throat chakra issues just with chemical sensitivity. And it's like, we're fully awake. We've got no problem. I have many friends and colleagues, and I've been on this thing before where you're really awake on the level of consciousness, but the body just struggles. And my favorite one that people struggle with is Wi-Fi signals. It's like, I can't be around Wi-Fi signals. It's like, you can't go anywhere on planet Earth now. You hide out in the desert, but it's really hard. 5G and all this kind of stuff. And it's just everywhere now. It's just everywhere. And our mammal body and in all the bodies, like all the animals and the plants are struggling with this. It's because it's like it's overwhelmed by toxicity. And so the throat chakra is affected by things we don't say Sometimes it's affected by things we do say, and we need to apologize. But it's also affected, again, like in that listening way, in what we receive, like how much we receive. Like like when I was growing up, there was the war on terror. We had the terror meter. Just the news just trying to fill you with terror every day. We're at an orange today. Oh wait, it's green. Oh, it's red, And then like with COVID, it was the death count, that uh, of the YouTube gods don't listen, but which was an absolute lie, it's just an absolute lie, that death count. Um, and so anyways, uh, it's just a crazy world. It's a crazy world. So when we're receiving fear on the TV all the time, just fear, or maybe people don't even watch TV anymore. They receive it on the internet, like all this fear. You should be scared. That congests the throat chakra. It congests it. And when the throat chakra is congested, it is hard for you to see and experience your heart. And so there's this interesting connection, excuse me, between the throat and the so the throat and the heart, the throat and the solar plexus, the throat and the hara, and the throat and the root. So the lower three chakra centers, it has to do with fear, So if there's lots of fear in your first three chakra centers, chances are your throat chakra is not going to be open. It's not going to be open. And if you're afraid to feel what's in your heart, again, throat chakra is not going to be open. And if you're afraid just to be you and you live just purely in your mind and your mask, again, throat chakra is not going to be open. And so again, most people have some stuff with the throat chakra. And then of course, there's just normal things on planet Earth that clog up the throat, like pollen, and like colds and flu and this and that. And I could go in a spiritual perspective about those, but I'm not. I'm just going to keep it like that. Like sometimes, it's just life. It's just life. Okay. Oh, here's a fun one that I haven't spoken about very often is many of us have secrets that we have swallowed. Like if you see something in childhood, and like if you see mom or dad doing something, or creepy uncle doing something, and you swallow that secret, so basically the throat chakra in an egoic level is what Freud would call the superego, and which is a primary force of repression. Repress it all. Don't let any of it come up. If anyone saw Ricky Bobby before, the hilarious movie, there's a time when the two guys are hanging out at the bar together and Ricky Bobby always wins the race. And his buddy Cal is with him, and Cal's like, hey, it'd be nice, if I could just win the race one time and not always you. It'd be nice. Be nice. So Cal is speaking his truth, saying he wants to win every now and then, maybe just once. And Ricky Bobby, grabs a beer and tells him to grab a beer. He says, just drink it down. Like, just drink that thought down and never allow it to come up again. As Ricky Bobby's an egomaniac and he's a narcissist, and he always has to win. He always has to win. He always has to win. Talladega Nights. I'm sorry. Thank you, Andrew. Talladega Nights. You have to forgive me. Andrew reminded me yesterday that I'm a Gen Xer. And so that might be a Gen X movie. I don't know. But anyways, it's a fun movie. It's a fun movie, very inappropriate. And they don't make inappropriates anymore. They don't make inappropriate movies anymore. They don't allow them. The politically correct police, because we're not allowed to have jokes anymore. Can't have any jokes unless they're about Trump. Then we can have jokes, all kinds of jokes, all kinds of jokes. Okay. Let's see here. So if we have swallowed anger, suppressed anger, swallowed secrets, and again, like people who've been abused, physically, mentally, emotionally abused, and it happened by a close family member, we swallow that down. And that protects us in the tribe. It protects us so that we're not kicked out of the tribe. Because sometimes people speak up and, you're thrown out of the tribe for speaking up. And so this superego says, nope, do not speak. Keep it all shut inside. Keep it all shut. Keep it all shut. Keep it all shut. And of course, that's not the way. The truth will set you free. Will set you free. Okay. And our tribe has all these rules. If you're on the left, you cannot speak out about big pharma. If you're on the right, you can't speak out about big oil. You got to keep that zipped up. Zipped up. Got to keep it zipped up if you want to stay in the tribe. And in the family, like there's things you're not allowed to talk about. You're not allowed to talk about. But ultimately, we make our body sick through swallowing the truth. And again, sometimes it's from a previous incarnation. Like it's very possible that if you have an autoimmune disorder, that it's because you swallowed the truth in a previous incarnation. Because you might be like, I had a great life this incarnation, but my last life, I was burnt alive on a stake and they called me a witch because I had a kundalini awakening. It's like, damn, damn, damn. That was a tough moment. Another reason our throat chakra can be closed is we don't know how to grieve in our culture anymore. We don't know how to grieve. We forgot about grieving. Instead of grieving, we attack and we're righteous. And, like you have to learn how to grieve. Some people don't know that they are allowed to use the word no. They don't have a no in their vocabulary. I didn't have a no most of my life. I was like, shit, I'd start to tremble when I'd have to say no to somebody. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And my wife, she has a similar thing. She didn't know that she's allowed to say no. We have a daughter. God gave us a daughter who doesn't understand the word no. she takes everything as a yes. And it's a hilarious thing that God is teaching me and my wife. Hilarious thing. Okay. Okay, let's do this. Let's close our eyes. I'm going to invite us to feel into the throat chakra. To feel into the throat. Breathing and feeling. And just noticing. Noticing what came forward for you. And asking yourself this question. Do you have swallowed anger? Do you have swallowed sadness? Do you have swallowed secrets? Why? Why is your throat chakra closed? Or why has it been closed in the past? And sometimes it's not closed, but you just feel a little congestion there. Like, what is that about? And can we take a moment and just allow yourself to honestly see what you have been carrying around within you? If you imagine, just for fun, if you could imagine that you have a giant backpack full of your karma, Let's imagine we have a backpack on our back, but we also have one of those backpacks on the front, on our chest pack. And I want you to imagine just dropping both those packs and emptying them out on the floor, just like fully emptying them out. It can maybe feel a little bit like vomiting, just like, just like let it empty out. And can you let yourself see what you have carried around with you? What have you carried around with you? And for some of you, as you do this, you might find it hard. You might find like a gripping in the throat or the belly. Or others might notice like some yawning or some spacing out. The real common throat chakra reactions of like, maybe I'll space out and meditate. I don't want to listen to what this guy has to say. I want to space out and rise above, act aloof, like nothing disturbs me. I want you to take a good look at what you have carried. And we can sift through it a little bit. Maybe there's some things here from the first year of our life. Some just like somatic feelings of tension or of nausea or abandonment. And a couple of years later in life, if we feel like just 1 to 5 or 8 years old, maybe we had brothers or sisters who picked on us or bullied us. A very common reason. One of the most common reasons why the throat chakra is closed is we were bullied by older brother, older sister, kid down the street. And as you feel into adolescence, may have been bullied or attacked or belittled, for the way you looked, or because your hormones or your face broke out, or because of you began to recognize that your sexual orientation was different than others. Maybe you had just lots of desire, it wasn't welcome or allowed to be expressed, or you grew too tall too quick, or you didn't grow at all. You're a late bloomer, you're skinny or too big, too small, whatever. And so again, we're just opening and allowing ourselves to see or feel. Sometimes there was a divorce in the family. Stepdad came in and he was a jerk. Our mom wasn't around. Sometimes it was we had too much of mom, not enough dad. Sometimes one of them was a lunatic, or the brother or sister was mentally ill. We developed the habit of pleasing or fighting with everyone, or hiding or imploding or exploding. And as the throat chakra opens, I'm going to invite you just acknowledge there's a big space here. Big space, profound space of freedom here. And you can allow Whatever is here that needs to empty, that this space is big enough. You can trust that this space is big enough. It's big enough to receive it all. You do not have to keep it in. You don't have to hold it back. You can allow it to vomit up and out. And I mean that energetically, not literally, but energetically, but it might feel like that. You might feel some burning nausea or some heat as this light comes in the room. And these things begin to empty out of us and burn up and burn out. You might even take your hands and just gently kind of like rake through your body energetically through the 7 chakras and just casting off. If we have demons of rage, of violence, of lust, of desire, of materialism, of mental or political affliction, or righteousness, or insanity, or fearfulness, anxiety, whatever it is, you just kind of use your hand and just kind of rake through the chakras, and just casting off the darkness, the confusion, giving it back to God, giving it back to life. Throat chakra is a doorway to great space, great love. And it sounds silly, but the great composting nature of the universe. The universe can take anything that is old, stuck, dead, frozen, and heat it up and compost it, turning it into divine radiance. So yeah, breathing, feeling, softening. The throat chakra is known for being the seat of the controlling one, the efforting one, the doer, the doing, more the controlling, mitigating one. I need to mitigate. You don't need to mitigate. You need to let go and trust. Trust. It's God's job to serve justice. It's God's job to straighten life out. Our job is to let go and to fall into alignment with what is. With what is. So if you've carried a secret, if you've carried a burden within you, lift it up and out. Lift it up and out. If you need to forgive yourself, now's a good time. Now's a good time. If your throat is open, you might hear this gift from the Divine Mother. You are forgiven. You are forgiven. You are forgiven. I made you, by the way, and I made this world, by the way. You're forgiven for being human, for getting mad, for getting angry, for being inappropriate, for making mistakes. You are forgiven. But to choose to close the throat chakra and to close yourself off from God, from the heart, from your divinity, this is by far the greatest sin you can commit. To close yourself off from your divinity. Because once you do this, all other sins come forward quite easily. Quite easily. As soon as you betray your own heart, it's easy to harm others. It's easy to lie. And so looking at this, how have you betrayed yourself? And sometimes it's simply not trusting in your own heart. Instead, trusting the defensive programming and organism of the thinking mind. And so with the throat, often we open it through choosing, courageously choosing to stand in the holy fire. Choosing to be honest. Choosing to forgive. It's hard to be a good meditator if we can't forgive ourselves first for being human. If we can't forgive our fellow brothers and sisters for being human. And so again, I'll ask you, is there anyone you need to forgive? It's the power of forgiveness. Forgiveness creates space, brings us into the present moment. It helps us to unhook from an overly personalized human sense of self, to step into our absolute nature. Breathing, feeling, softening. Inviting the throat to be fully open, so that when you surrender, things actually leave your being. If one wants to know the truth of nirvana, the truth of cessation, the throat has to be radically open. We have to allow the past to die, the future to die. So just taking a couple more minutes here, this clearing of the throat chakra. Continue to journey inward, noticing what else is here. Clogging, congesting the throat, controlling, criticizing, correcting. And who is this one who's correcting? Is it even me? Is it the voice of my mother, my father, my grandfather? Who is it? Is this commenting one, the one commenting on my experience neurotically all the time? Is that who I am? Or can I see that is simply a habit of an overstimulated egoic identity? Can I let go of the commentator? And some of you have a commentator that's just telling you all the time the world's unsafe. My mother, father, sister, brother is unsafe. I'm unsafe. Sometimes if you have too much kundalini flowing through you, the commentator is saying, I'm unsafe, I'm unsafe, I'm unsafe. Can you see from a place, a point, a perspective beyond the commentator and see that you are actually okay in an absolute manner? Your body may even have a physical affliction or disability. And can you see from an absolute perspective that your presence is perfect, it's radiant, it's beautiful, it's holy, it's divine? Can you open and let go and let God? And so I'm going to invite us all to continue to open down through the throat, opening down into the heart, connecting with this sense of I am. I am. Can you let yourself see what you are? I am the light. I am love. I am radiance. I am freedom. I am the sky. I am the earth. I am immense strength, light, and power. I am that which is free. So, a handful of you are holding back a little bit through the throat chakra. We can also ask for support. If the throat is open and trusting, we can call upon heavenly support to hold us, to uplift us, to lead us and guide us. So please, by all means, if you have a request for support, lift it up now, placing it in the lap of the Divine Mother. Will you heal me? Will you hold me? Will you uplift me? Will you give me the strength? Show me the way. Give me the strength, the light, the face, the shadow, darkness, pain, confusion I have tripped over, I struggle with. As you open in this way, you may notice things being lifted out of you. When the throat chakra is open, things can be taken out of you. Things that you no longer want, no longer need. It could be helpful, some of you, to look and see if your ego unconsciously is holding on to some things. As the ego says, I need to hold on to this and replay this story of the past so it won't happen again. And ask yourself, is that true? Or do I trust that I can let go and let God direct my life? And allow God to direct all of life. So some of you, it could be helpful if you let go more fully in the solar plexus, like right below the heart. Oh, good. That's very good. I see there's a big shift in the room. Let go right below the heart. Again, let's do that for a little bit here. Letting go again, right below the heart. Consciously, intentionally. Experience this big wave of relief of letting go. The light coming online in a more solid and integrated manner. And continuing to let go under the heart, solar plexus. Again, I invite, continue to allow your consciousness to descend down into the earth, plugging into the strength, the depth, radical okayness of the earth. Feeling yourself as the earth. This great eternal ground. And as you open into the earth, I invite you to notice what you feel like in the throat chakra. You see how this brings great harmony and balance. It's quite a different experience when the throat is plugged into the earth. For most of us, the throat has been plugged into the mind and into the nervous system. It's created one giant fearful contraction. As the throat plugs down all the way into the earth, notice this great rebalancing. Harmonizing depth and freedom. This feeling that it's okay to be what you are, to live the truth, to embody the truth. To speak the truth, to share the truth. The quiet radiance of your eternal nature. And so let's gently open our eyes and I'll welcome you back into this space. Together, let us pray, let us invite, let us invoke that the truth triumphs here on planet Earth, that God's will triumphs here throughout all creation. Throughout all creation. Oh, beautiful. And so again, I invite you just to stay in your direct experience. And we could have a couple questions now related to the throat chakra, please. And I'll just share a couple more things about the throat. The trajectory of the throat chakra goes from, just to make it real basic, from being closed and shut to open and wild and chaotic and overly expressive of our egoic ideas and feelings, to eventually, as it matures and there's discernment, the throat chakra is the avenue through which our gift is shared here on planet Earth. And I've said this often, that we will never, ever be fully happy until we share our gift here on planet Earth. So we can even be like an awake human being, an enlightened human being. If you're just walking around in your own private bliss world, there'll be a part of you that will still kind of ache. That'll ache. That'll hurt. That'll feel as if you're not fully being here. And occasionally I've seen this. I've been in like a monastery and I've seen, monks who had realized something great, but they kept themselves cloistered and, behind the monastic walls. And then they developed like a low-grade depression post-awakening. It's an interesting thing to see. Interesting thing to see. And so there will always be a little bit of us that's somewhat sad if we're not living and embodying our highest truth. And that's one of the primary reasons we've come here to planet Earth, is first for growth. And then secondly, to share, to connect, to relate, to sing the glories of God through our own voice, through the expression of our own heart. So, let me see if there's one other thing I wanted to say. The great quality of the throat chakra that becomes manifest is when people have great faith, great faith, great faith. There's faith in God, faith in the truth. Again, if we go back to that movie Braveheart, where, where Braveheart is being tortured. Like he has faith, through him being tortured. And he screams the truth, freedom, freedom, while being tortured. Like that's faith. Most people would have shut up and said, I'll cooperate if it means I don't have to be tortured. But it's great faith, an unshakable faith. That's the quality of the throat chakra. And so if we think like chakras are silly and we don't need to study the chakras, and I mean, if you thought that, you wouldn't be here. But if you think, oh, this is just all spiritual nonsense, it's like, how far are we going to get on the spiritual path without faith? How far? Not very far. Not very far. And so to have faith is a great quality. I don't know how anyone gets around in this world without some faith. Okay, let's hear from. I want you to
What?
tell me, Prasang, how you are suffering, so I can offer you some support here, my friend. In what way, in what area are you suffering? Is this a throat chakra suffering, or what is it?
No, for me, every task, everything of life is like suffering. I am not able to do anything. I am not able to travel. I cannot do any task, and I'm getting beaten by life in every direction. Like, it's not about just related to kundalini. In kundalini, there is a I feel that there is a so much heat, and I feel like burning, like I'm literally getting cooked. That is my uh, experience. Like, I am on a fire.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay, good, good. And does the fire have a theme? Is it cooking one thing in particular, or is it cooking everything?
It is cooking everything.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Okay.
cooking me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I'll just tell you this, my friend. Sometimes when we wake up, things get really hot inside, and God puts us on a skewer, and that's a steak, and holds us over the fire and cooks and burns everything false out of our system. And I can tell you, my friend, it's very uncomfortable. You know that. It's very uncomfortable. It's very unpleasant. And sometimes we just have to live through that experience. Now, you can communicate to God and say, God, what exactly are you cooking here? Is there something in particular you are looking for, God? Can I help you find it so you don't have to cook my whole body? God, is there any way that I can cooperate with you? Is there anything I can do differently? Can you show me the way? Can you lead me? Can you show me what I need to surrender, what I need to let go of, what I need to trust in? And so we say this prayer to God, inviting yourself to be brought into alignment. But sometimes God will just turn the light switch on within us, and everything will be on fire for a number of years until that which is false is cooked out of us and we're left empty and free. And we're left empty and free. And again, this can be very unpleasant, very inconvenient. It can feel even traumatic. But we have to remember this is God's life, God's world, and God's will. Now, my sense about you, Prasang, is that you're a good man. You have a humble heart. And you probably don't have a tremendous amount of falsehood within you. But God is trying to teach you something here and show you something. And sometimes God is just trying to show us that you are the light, that you are the light, that you are not Prasang, but you are the light. And when you begin to wake up and realize that you are the light, the fire stops being so hot. And so I'm going to invite you just to continue to open and to trust, even though this experience is overwhelming. This is the spiritual path, and we are opening to something great. This seems to be the theme today. This great thing will overwhelm us, will overwhelm any aspect of resistance within us until we let go of the human identity and realize, oh, I'm the thing. I'm the light. I'm the force of divinity. I'm not that body. I'm not that body. The body is something I have, but it's not what I am. It's not what I am. I am this light. And what does this light want to do? How does this light want to shine? What is my life like if I stop resisting this light and just be the fire that I am? That I am. And so, my friend, you keep opening, you keep trusting, and this thing will shift. It will. And at some point, if God comes to you and says, hey, Prasang, it might be helpful to forgive yourself or forgive your mother or forgive your father or forgive this or forgive that. If God gives you instructions, you follow those instructions. Because sometimes God puts us in the fire. We don't even know what the hell is going on. And then, like 6 months into the fire, God says, hey, I need you to forgive. Or I need you to let go. Or I need you to trust. I need you to identify with something much greater than what you know yourself to be in this moment. And so, my friend, you keep opening. You keep opening. I'll send some love your way. I'll ask God to speak to you in a way that you can understand. That you can understand. Yeah, beautiful, my friend. Beautiful. Okay, so good to be with all of you. I did put in the chat the first video, and so it's there. And let me see if I can just post it again real quick. For those of you who showed up a minute late, so if you just copy paste that video out of the chat. And I want you all to have a nice break and take good care of yourself. And while we're on the break, I want to leave you just with this question of what gets stuck in my throat chakra. What could I be more honest about and bring forward into the light to be healed or to be cleared out? What are the things that get in between me and God, me and life, me and the truth? And am I willing to surrender all of this? And oftentimes that's why we're in a fire of purification like a Prasang is in. It's because God wants us to surrender something big. And sometimes that big thing is our own identity. That's the biggest thing to surrender, is our own identity. And to wake up and see, what am I beyond this small identity? What am I beyond this small identity? What is my life like if I become the light that I am? Okay. Good to be with you. See y'all tonight. You can look on the schedule on my website for when our next meeting is, but it's in 4.5 hours, I think, something like that. Okay, much love. See you soon. Bye.